Welcome to Asian American Parenting, a podcast from Rooted Ministry and the Sola Network, where the gospel meets Asian American faith, culture, and parenting. Each episode, we explore how to raise the next generation with a strong gospel foundation in Christ while navigating the unique challenges of our cultural identity. Thanks for joining us. Let's dive in. Welcome to Asian American Parenting, the podcast of Sola Network and the Rooted Ministry, where we talk about gospel-centered parenting, faith, and culture. I'm here today with our special guest, Justin Wong. Justin, can you say hello?
Hey everybody, glad to be here.
And Justin was a longtime youth pastor in Houston area, and he's a specialist in youth culture. I think one of the most astute students of youth culture. Can you introduce yourself a little bit, Justin?
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Houston, Texas, pretty much grew up here, second generation pastor within the Asian American church. As Danny said, worked with students and families for a couple of decades now, and just the champion of Next Gen Ministries.
Yep. And also as a next-gen pastor, we know we also love our Asian American parents. And so today we're going to be talking about a topic that relates to their children and teenagers, but also them as parents. And we're going to be talking about the Netflix movie Kpop Demon Hunters. Yay! And last night, Justin and I, we were talking, we saw when Novak Djokovic won his tennis match,
Yep.
He did the K-pop Demon Hunters dance.
Yep.
And so this is a hot topic that all parents are talking about. And it does have some Asian American roots. And so we're talking about it on our Asian American podcast. And so, Justin, you're a parent also,
Yeah.
and are your kids into this movie?
Yeah, they're the ones who's actually turned me on to it. I think I was coming home one night and they were watching something and they were singing along. And so I just asked them, hey, what is this? And I just heard the word demon. And so
Okay.
my ears kind of spiked up. And then it wasn't until later that I watched it for myself. So yeah,
Okay, yeah, and we watched it. Yeah,
very aware.
yeah, okay, great. And only thing I know, soda pop. You can be my diets. I say diet soda, and I'm just joking around. But what's your overall assessment as someone who studies youth culture and as you speak to parents about what's your overall assessment of K-pop Demon Hunter?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, again, when I first started hearing it, I think it was alarming at first or just kind of worrisome. And then overall assessment, I think it's a fun movie. I think it's done well. And then as time grew on, you start to realize how big of a cultural moment this one is. And so now we know that it's, the most watched Netflix series. It's topped Billboard. I found this stat where it just overtook Beyonce's 24-year record.
Wow.
Of now they're number one. And so
Yeah.
I think Beyonce had a record in the female pop charts for 24 years. And then K-pop Demon Hunters has dethroned her. So this is a cultural moment. I think whether you like it or not, whether you watched it, I think you still need to be aware of it because everyone is talking about it.
Yeah. Do you think parents of children and teenagers should be worried at all or concerned? I mean, for me, I watched it because, everybody was watching it,
Right.
and you told me to watch it. And I thought it was just a fun,
Yeah.
harmless movie, but I'm not like a astute student of youth culture.
Right. The word of advice for parents is if your kids are in it, I think you at least need to be aware of it. If not, watching it with them to talk through the plot lines and the themes that they may or may not understand just yet.
Yeah.
And so to disciple your students as a parent, I think to be aware of these things is very, very important.
Yeah. And so as a parent, as an Asian American parent, how does this movie in general relate to our Asian Americanness. And, I'm Korean, you're Chinese, so, there might be a little differences, but how does it relate to our Asian Americanness?
Sure. I mean, that's a great question. I think whether it does, this movie will hit no matter what ethnicity.
Yeah.
I think as Asian Americans, it definitely has a familiarity because they are working with, I mean, kind of two cultures, American and Korean.
Yeah.
And so you start to see a lot of similarities in the issues that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, even within the major characters, they're dealing with these two sides of them. Whether it's growing up in Burbank, California, and then doing this, or the shame honor factor, there's a lot of layered pieces in all of the characters, but then also as the characters collectively.
Yeah.
There's a lot to the ethnicity that they have to deal with that I think Asian Americans can definitely resonate with.
Would you say it's a good kind of point of contact to talk about with your teenagers or children? It's a good,
yeah, for absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's so on the nose.
Yeah.
And again, I think if you have kids, I think they're dealing with one, if not all three of the issues.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's an easy way to kind of just go, hey, who do you identify with? Like, who can you see you like making friends with in the show? And I think your students can understand it from that level. And I think it's an easy way to start having deeper conversations because the characters and the plot line has already laid out talking points for you.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily have to be Asian American to
No.
talk about these things because this is a global phenomenon.
And I'm going, there's at least, I mean, I'm tracking this. There's at least 9-10 really big meta themes with embedded within the show, if you can kind of find it.
Yeah. And I know, Justin, for Rooted Ministry, you're going to be writing an article soon about this K-pop Demon Hunters movie. But I appreciate that you're coming on the podcast today. And we're going to be talking about some of the major themes that parents can discuss with their children and teenagers about this movie and from this movie. And so I know you've outlined some of these online on your Instagram, and you could look up Justin's Instagram if you want to. But the first theme, and we have a good amount of time to unpack these, is the theme of spirituality. Oh, yeah. And it's a great theme that you could talk about with your child and teenager. Could you unpack that for a few minutes for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the title. I mean, K-pop Demon Hunter. And so, I mean, I think if you're just finding it on the internet, you're just like, what in the world? And so it already suggests that there's a spiritual reality inside of a normal reality, which, for the Christian worldview, we understand that. And so at the outset of the movie, you're dealing with kind of two worlds. And so, they're the girls in the movie, what they're dealing with is, they're a K-pop band, but they have a bigger purpose into subduing the demons and fighting back and using their voices as kind of the ultimate weapon to kind of subdue a darker world out there.
Mm-hmm. And like with your kids, did you talk about it with them? Like, how did you go
kind of? I mean, I think, I don't know about you. I'm trying not to be cheesy with it, right? Or like Jesus juke it. Yeah. But I mean, I think so my kids are late elementary school, 4th and 5th grade.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they have the framework on a very elementary basis of, demons even. I think we were preaching out of the Gospels, and there's parts where Jesus confronts demons. Yeah. In the book of Mark, especially. Yeah. And so for them, they're just like, well, this is these are fun demons, or these are like ones that have to be killed or whatever. And so they're aware of it. I think this is where we can kind of help round out. Okay, it's not to be kind of glamorized, but yeah, there's an awareness of it. I think, we can't just chalk it off as it doesn't matter or this is just a movie. I think there's something to talk about. Now, how K-pop Demon Hunters go about spirituality and these type of things, Danny, like Korean culture. I was trying to ask a lot of my Korean friends
Yeah.
because I just didn't know the culture and the spiritual dynamic behind it.
Yeah.
Right. Coming from a Chinese culture, like that was a little bit different. But there, yeah, for sure. There's definitely a spiritual element to this.
Yeah. And, you know, depending on the age of our kids versus like you have young kids, you know, who are fourth and fifth grade and you don't want to scare them to death, but,
Yeah.
you know, you could talk about good and evil maybe, and, you know, maybe a little older, middle school, high school, you know, we can bring up spiritual warfare in Ephesians 6.
Well, I mean, I think so. I think one thing that's unique about students and even kids nowadays is they already have a lot of these things already baked in the cake, right? Because they weren't scared at all because, you know, they've seen Harry Potter, they know a lot of the stuff already.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was almost the opposite. Hey, this is not just one of the million things that we can just gloss over.
Yeah.
Is there something that we can talk about? Now, I had to pick and choose which one to land on.
Yeah.
And then kind of have to reframe, how does the gospel speak into spirituality? And is there such thing as demons lurking underneath, you know, some kind of, you know, mesh little layer thing? And so trying to pick and choose how to go about it was the more difficult thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And again, specifically with the age of your daughters. But like you said, in our pop culture, they're probably somewhat aware of this already. Yeah. Yeah. So spirituality is one of the topics that parents can talk about with their children and teenager. And the second thing you talked about is identity. Can you, how can, where does that come out in the movie, and how can we talk about that with our kids?
Yeah, I mean, if you just take a first glance, I mean, you can see identity everywhere,
Yeah.
especially as they follow the main character, Rumi.
Yeah.
Her big thing is, you know, trying to, I mean, she's a type A person. I would love to hang out with her.
Yeah.
She's on a mission. She cares about her team, but she just has past baggage, and she's trying to deal with, oh my gosh, I know that, if she gets into herself, I'm damaged goods, or I can't really be who I am. And so let me do this so that it will fix itself. But then, you know, then we don't have to worry about it. Right. It's kind of suppressing all of my, I guess, baggage and sin deep down, and let me do something in order to handle that. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is a lot of Asian Americans. I think that's a lot of students in our culture at this point.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's your student right now going, okay, I have shame in my past, and I just need to forget it and stuff it. Whereas the gospel says, hey, bring that to Christ and let him heal the broken parts. And actually, you know, confession and repentance is actually part of the healing process and the journey. And so that one's really big. The other ones are very similar. I think, you know, the actor Zoe, right? She deals with approval. And so fitting in, not really fitting into either the Korean culture or the American culture, I think she feels with self-doubt. And then Mira, you know, one of my daughter's favorite characters.
Yeah.
She's, you know, growing up with a lot of insecurities as well, trying to figure out how to belong, but then also has this really tough exterior to kind of shield her from kind of internalizing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And maybe from the male perspective, I think I read something you wrote about one of the Saja boys characters who dealt with identity also.
Yeah. Cause he again, he's going to match the main girl character as well.
Yeah.
And so they're dealing with almost conjoining issues. You know, for him, it's shame. By the way, this is a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't watched the movie, we're going to ruin this for you. But by now, I mean, it's too late. He's going to be the mirror of of Rumi, the main girl character. And so, but he has a lot of shame that he's dealing with. And his solution is, if I can do X for XYZ, then I don't have to think about this. Because his thing is, I want to control the voices in my head, or I want to silence it. And I think that just goes back to kind of our need for control, for acceptance and approval, and that only really comes through the gospel.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we give up something versus me controlling something.
Yeah. So that theme of identity and shame and approval that kind of impacts that. And just as a side note, but related to identity and shame and approval, because you're an expert on youth culture, for our parents that are listening and maybe youth pastors, um, like how does social media today impact an identity of a child or a teenager?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the movie actually does a really good job hinting at this.
Yeah.
And so let me answer that in two ways. Number one, just a broad, how does social media impact? I think there's multiple layers. One is just the time consumed on a device
Yeah.
does affect, right? Psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, is just the amount of consumption that we're dealing with social media. That's one thing. I think, Danny, you and I talked about this before, but it's not just the amount that we're ingesting. I think it's realizing every single soundbite, data point it's a point of discipleship. And I think that is what parents really need to understand. It's now you're giving students access to millions of disciplers, but they're coming from a million different, I would say, inconsistent worldviews. And so, again, I'm not against social media, obviously. I think we need to be wise with it. But I think what parents need to really, really understand is there's a lot of worldviews and a lot of people discipling your students. I think that's going to be inevitable. But I think as parents, we need to understand what they're being discipled into and who are they being discipled by.
Yeah.
So that's the high level thing. Now, when it comes to the movie, I think there's a couple of things you can almost pick out. I think even as the band goes through their journey, you start to realize what celebrity does to them. And so a lot of it's performance based, a lot of it's fandom. You can realize even your fans, they change at any given moment. If you're not number one on the charts, you become less, you start to go lower on the chart, and then everyone all of a sudden goes to Saja Boys or whatever. And so that's kind of the fickleness I think that the movie touches on. It's the fickleness of celebrity.
Yeah.
And it changes all the time. And so, when you don't have people cheering you on or following you, or you're not at the top of your game, do you still have an identity? I think the movie does this really, really well, and subtly kind of exposing a lot of that.
Yeah. And for our own children, we have to be aware of that because, these days there's also a lot of loneliness and feelings of anxiety and things like that in our kids that develop.
Right.
Yeah.
And sorry if I cut you off.
No, great.
So going to what you just said, and going back to one of the first questions, what was interesting, so I watched it again for like the 50th time last night with my kids. There was my youngest daughter loves to sing along with the songs, which secretly I do too, but she was singing the Saja Boy song, Your Idol, which is brilliant in how they did it. But what I was realizing is, it's coming from the demons who are, really brainwashing the crowd. But what I was noticing is my daughter was singing the lyrics, but she didn't realize that was coming from a negative, right? Like if you're watching it, you're going, okay, we don't want people to idolize these demons. We don't want their hearts to be captive by these demons. But for her, I mean, she's young. She's just singing the song because it's catchy.
Yeah.
And then as a parent, I was like, hold on, I need to step into this moment to say, do you know what you're singing? Do you know what's happening? Let me pull you out of the movie real quick and realize, hey, it's, these demons are trying to promote themselves as an idol that can save and sanctify. And that's not what we want, right?
Yeah.
So that was like, oh my gosh, I didn't pick that up till last night.
No, that's good. Now, the last theme we wanted to discuss is sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I know you wrote a lot about this too, and I really appreciate what you wrote. Can you kind of unpack that for us a little bit too?
Yeah, I mean, if you follow every character, they all have to do it at some level. Now,
Yeah.
again, the movie is going to focus on Rumi, the main character. But I think the movie does talk about it. I mean, it's how do we fully fight evil? It's through sacrifice. You can't win unless, somebody gives themselves up for that. Now, in this movie, obviously it's not pointed to Christ, but
Yeah.
you can easily jump from the idea of sacrifice to the ultimate sacrifice of what Christ did for us as man, fully God and fully man.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but it's everywhere. I think every character in this movie has to give up something.
Yeah.
And I think it points to the fact that unless we die, we can't really live.
Yeah.
But the more we hold on to ourselves, the more we end up dying. And so the motif of sacrifice is everywhere. Now, again, this movie, it wasn't pointing towards Christ, but it gets really close. And I think this is where Christian parenting needs to come in to go, hold on, it's close, but it's not there yet. Let me round out the whole theme for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is really good. And going back to this idea you talked about, and we're going to have a webinar rooted on digital discipleship, but our kids are getting these messages from pop culture and social media that are discipling them.
Yep.
And, we hopefully want them to grow in Christ and ultimately know Christ and be known by Christ. And so it's so important. So we're going to definitely ultimately have you on another podcast on our Asian American Parenting podcast that Sola and Rooted does about pop culture and digital discipleship. But since we talked about it earlier, I just wanted to ask you in the last couple minutes about this idea of social media again. And, there's this book, Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt. Everybody's reading that. It's like so popular. It's like the demon hunters of books now. I don't know, everybody who has a parent and sociologist and youth pastors talking about it, and now he's talking about banning social media and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok for teenagers. And where are you on this idea of social media use and teenagers as a youth pastor and a parent?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think we're just in an era right now where a lot of us are trying things and seeing if it works. I think we're seeing more of the sociology that comes with it right now, and just kind of more of the problems more than the benefits. Honestly, I think that's what we're seeing in the last 5-10 years in terms of social media, because more and more news articles are about how it's dangerous, or at least you need to be very aware. So I think for me, it's a tool, right? And you have to be very self-conscious, and not just for yourself, but also for anyone that you're working with, like namely your kids.
Yeah.
And so how much you consume, right? And again, I think this is Brett McCracken's book, The Wisdom Pyramid.
Yeah.
And it's, right now, because of social media, because of instant access, we're consuming a lot of information all at once. And so it's very hard for us to discern what's true, what's false.
Yeah.
I think we're consuming it really fast.
Yeah.
And so our attention span is not only getting worse, but also there's no time for true reflection and meditation. And I wonder if that's why it's hard for many of us to sleep, right?
Yeah.
It's just because we're consuming so quickly. But then also another part is we're only consuming what makes sense for us.
Yeah.
And so I think if you have kind of your guardrails built out, right? And again, I think the only way to do that is through maturity and discipleship. Like I think those are muscles that have to be worked at. And so the younger you get, I think there's more liability because those muscles of discernment are not built up just yet. And I would even say, if you are navigating the world of social media or internet on your own, and you give it to like a middle schooler or a elementary school kid, I think you're giving them weapons and tools that they're not ready for yet on their own. You wouldn't do that with a vehicle or, a power tool. And so again, social media is great for what it is, extremely dangerous if you don't know how to use it. But you need people around you to really guard and help you like build up those muscles of discernment.
So ultimately, as a parent who, we let our kids watch K-pop Demon Hunter, just using this as an example, this movie, I guess you're suggesting that we not just let our kids watch it mindlessly, because it's, in some sense, it's just a movie and it's not super harmful, but there are some messages that need to be digested and exercised with your kids. Is that what you're kind of suggesting?
I mean, I think as a parent, a Christian parent, namely, I think I want to do two things. I think number one, I want to go enter into their world.
Yeah.
Right. If they like it, I'm like, okay, that's great. I want to like what you like. Yeah. And so I want them to see that mom and dad want to be in your world, right? I want to enjoy, I want to laugh at the things you laugh at. I want to cry at the things that you're crying about. I want to be there because, again, at some level, they're my neighbor as well, right? I want to be neighborly to you. And I want mom and dad to be fun. And I want that connection. On the other hand, I want them to know that I want them to learn how to actively think like mom and dad as well. Right? Like mom and dad aren't just mindlessly watching something. I want you to know that, hey, I want to keep my thoughts, in check. I want to hold every thought captive towards Christ. And I want to have a framework, but I want them to see that I'm doing it. Not in a way where we're like, oh my gosh, we're not watching this or we're doing this. But I want them to see that as a Christian, I'm actively thinking and I'm actively processing for the sake of my own hearts, so that maybe, hopefully, when they get more mature, they're coming to talk and we're having a dialogue about everything because they saw mom and dad engage early on, so that later on we can talk about anything that comes across their desk, whether it's a movie like K-pop Demon Hunters or something really, really tragic on the news or something else. It's, hey, mom and dad want to be part of your world. But we also realize, hey, we're beholden to Christ. And so we can live together in these two spheres because this is real life.
Oh yeah. That's so good. That's so good, Justin. You are, again, we've both been youth pastors, family pastors for a long time, but you are the expert on.
Oh no, I don't know about that, man.
Youth culture. And we definitely have to have you on again, probably in a couple weeks, on a episode on social media and digital discipleship, about our teens and what disciples them, and so our parents can hear and embrace that, and not be scared of social media and pop culture, but they can really embrace it and use it for the glory of God. So thank you, Justin.
Hey, appreciate it, Dana.
And for our listeners, just want to encourage you to embrace the hope and joy of the gospel and believe that it's true, powerful, and transformative. Thanks for listening to Asian American Parenting. We hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. For more resources, visit the show notes. See you next time.